This video is going to go over a new feature added to the Spine Unity runtime, and that is to do with Atlas region baking. So the reason this was added was so that if I had an object like a shield or a sword on a character or a gun or something like that, maybe you wanted to add it to a store menu or some kind of inventory, normally you would have to either pull the texture off the Atlas and import it separately or something like that. So I added a feature to the Atlas Asset Inspector that allows you to quickly bake an element from the Atlas into a mesh or prefab so that you can use it in other elements of Unity and still reuse the material, the texture, so on and so forth. So I'm going to grab say the weapon and the shield, and you can see what happened was it created a prefab with a simple mesh that matches the naming convention and all that stuff. And now I can just drag these into the scene and they just exist as normal Unity assets, and you can add some physics stuff to them. Whatever, something like that. Put that up there. Add some colliders, whatever. You get the idea. So now we've got that equipment weapon that just kind of does its thing, and we can even apply the data to the prefab, and it will store itself in here. So the problem with doing this manually is that if you had a bunch of copies of scene references somewhere, and all of a sudden you needed to update your Atlas or repack it or something like that, it would be kind of difficult to keep all the meshes in line with each other. So now what happens is if you go into Spine and say re-export the character, but you've changed your Atlas settings and now all of a sudden it's on like 5 different Atlases, or you add new items and the item isn't in the same place anymore and the UVs have changed, all you have to do is repack and watch the Spine branch break, and these Atlas items will have already been updated to do this correctly. So you notice it's down here, it's using the right material, the mesh and the UV have automatically been updated to keep all of your instances in date. It does use a naming convention and a folder location to keep these things synced up. So if you move these to a different folder, they will not be maintained with the Atlas anymore. But other than that, a couple more things were added to the Atlas Inspector, so you can quickly double-click on a material and mess with its shader if you need to. But that's pretty much the general idea. You've got very simple baking and persistence of baking things. You can just keep adding things to the list. If you want to unbake one permanently, you can either delete it from the project and it'll no longer process it as baking. Or you can go over here and uncheck the box and it will ask you whether or not you want to delete the prefab. You say yes, it deletes the prefab, and then it goes back to being a checkbox. And that's pretty much it. See ya.